Can I say good morning to everybody here? I say distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I consider it an honor and privilege to be here, at least just to share knowledge and at the same time get an insight into the composition of the audience. Perhaps again, we could gain one or two things to go back for us to go and refresh our memory or our stand. The topic for today says it's a call for. Okay. It's a call for emergencies, preparedness. And the reason for this is not far-fetched, but in this part of the world, we tend to underestimate things. But in the last couple of years, things have happened that have actually made us to sit down and start considering that, look, the world is not as safe as we think. And we just need to do something about it. We need to be prepared. Is that working? Okay. Now, I'm going to talk briefly and generally of what emergency preparedness is all about. I'm going to use what they call disaster cycle. Talk generally. And the essence is that if you use the principle of the disaster cycle, whatever may be the cause of any emergency, all you need to do is to amend some aspects of it, depending on the cause, depending on the agent, and do the appropriate things. This one, I developed this about last week, just to show you the enormity of what we're talking about. COVID-19. No, I will start with Lassa fever. With all the noise we're making here, we're still having Lassa fever in Nigeria. In Nigeria, yeah. If you look at these statistics here, in 2019, Lassa fever was found in 23 states of this country, over 86 local government areas, and had recorded 167 deaths. In the first 3 months of this year alone, Lassa fever has been found in 27 states, 118 local government areas, and has killed 137 people. The first 3 months. Let us hope that it doesn't go higher than this. In 2014, we had the Ebola crisis in West Africa. Forget about Congo because it happened in Congo. But this one was unprecedented. It was found in 3 continents of the world, 10 countries, and had over 15,000 confirmed cases and over 11,000 deaths. Now we have COVID-19. Recently, it's been found in 6 continents of the world. The only continent you've not found is Antarctica. It's over 103 countries, and globally it's over, I think the current figure now, as of today, is about 115,000 cases globally, and about 4,000 deaths now. This has changed. This was about a few days ago. So, like I said, let's look at definition of disaster. Basically, it says an event that results in the demand for services that exceeds available resources. It's called a disaster because the consequences far outweigh the resources you have. It means you will lose control. It causes a serious disruption of the function of society, widespread human, material, and environmental losses that also exceed the ability of the affected society to cope. If it's a disaster, we cannot cope with our current resources. We need help. Pure and simple. And there are different types, either natural or man-made. Man-made could be chemical, all sorts, but our focus today is on biological because of COVID-19. But it could be anything. It could be explosives. And take, for instance, again, well, If you recollect some years back, he had an air crash in Lagos State, never expected. That killed over 230 people, all within 10 minutes. It could be natural, flood, earthquake, anything. So anything can take any form, and it could be intentional. And this is one aspect that we tend to forget here. People talk of bioterrorism. It is not far-fetched because we have all the factors in our country, in Africa, West Africa. So the disaster management cycle basically was coined to shape policies and plans that we can put together to either try to minimize or modify the causes of disaster or mitigate the effect on the people. And preparedness, these are just basic definitions. Institution of prompt and effective multi-sectoral response to biological deaths and incidents. And this is very essential. If we are not prepared, we're going to record high mortality, high morbidity. If we are prepared, the tendency is that not many people will be affected. This is the disaster cycle. You have prevention and mitigation, preparedness, disaster occurs. Get to response, you have rehabilitation and recovery. The cycle starts again. Mitigation. These are the steps you take even before disaster occurs. And it requires very good leadership, very good governance structure. It requires a vision of the people in charge of government. And these are people who can look far into the distance. It's strategic planning, long-term planning. And the reason we're able to collect, people had asked us in Lagos, say, how do we do Ebola? And my first answer was, luck. We're lucky. Pure and simple. But the other reason, again, was that as far back as when Lagos State had a population of 100 million, when it qualified to be a mega city, we've had the fortune of getting some people in government who were very strategic in their thinking. And in Lagos State, we sat down. Look, we've attained mega city status. What are our vulnerabilities as a state? What are the risks that what are the things that can happen to Lagos State? And we sat down and started thinking. Lagos State is a small state. The population is huge. Part of it is underwater. People are coming to Lagos State every day. The infrastructure is totally inadequate. Everything. You have slum areas in Lagos State. You have over 70 slums. What can you do? Because once you have a disaster, any kind of thing, it's going to be a major disaster. And that's what led us to we started planning. So we had to look for what are the potential disasters Lagos State was. So you can do it for any country, any state, anywhere. What are the threats that state will face? You start looking for the things that may predispose you to disasters or threats. It could be man-made. So in Lagos State, it could be earthquake. It could be earthquake. We've not had it here. We had a flood. In fact, we had a series of building collapse, fire. Of course, you have road traffic accidents because it can be multiple. And you have to decide now, why are we vulnerable? These are just the planning phase of a disaster cycle. And it covers physical things, human resource things, everything. And that's why, again, you look at state governments adopting physical planning laws. You plan your cities, build roads, housing, etc. Drainages, because if all those things are haphazardly done, when you are responding, it's still going to be worse off for you. And that's when you start building up all the basic infrastructure systems that might help you to reduce the occurrence of any disaster. So let's go back to the health system. It's under this one again, prevention. You can look at our population. What disease are we prone to? How do we do it? Immunization is one. Covers many things. You can say family planning, whatever, it's all part of all this is. Next slide. The next one is not the planning phase. Suppose you cannot prevent, and disaster will occur. We start planning for things to do to even reduce the impact. That's why they say the overall goal is to prepare the emergency response agencies and population to minimize the loss of lives and social impact. You have to plan for your logistics. You can have many resources, human resources, consumables, paper, drugs. There are people whose job or experience it is. In fact, it was during the Ebola crisis 2004, I understand the importance of logistics. We didn't know that here. It's very essential in the health sector. Because at that time, a lot of people came. People from outside, WHO, CDC, different resources, private sector brought in their things, vehicles, fuel, so many things. Some people's role to get this is moving as when they should do, where they should go to on time, etc. That's just basic logistic planning. How to respond. You map your risks and your vulnerability. Then one thing we don't do here is we stockpile. I'm still going to talk about this. This is what they call medical countermeasures. You realize that, take for instance, in some parts of the year and up north, you know there's a particular period they're going to have meningitis. In some countries, they plan ahead, they stock vaccines. But here, it's only when this thing starts killing people, they'll start looking for vaccines. And we used to manufacture vaccines here. We don't. So you have to order. You may get there now, they say you have to wait and queue online because some other countries have strategically started planning ahead and ordering these vaccines. That is stockpiling. You have to prepare standard protocols. If this has happened, what can we do? X, Y, Z. Who is going to be in charge? These are part of preparation. You train people in different aspects. When Ebola occurred, many of us didn't even know what Ebola was. But as we were running helter-skelter, some people were looking into the books, and giving us information on what that disease was. We kept changing. Then we realized again, based on this, that, look, you cannot even touch the patient. When we build a treatment center, it's not just anybody who could enter there. You have to be trained on the modalities for entering the place. You have to be trained on how you wear your PPE, because if you wear it wrongly, you're at risk. You have to be trained on how you remove it. It's a special issue. And if the man training you is not satisfied that you are this thing, he will never allow you to enter that place because you will die. I'm not saying the person will die. So part of it again is the protocols, training in different aspects. Yes, again, you should do simulation exercises. We don't do that here. I think it's only the military that does that. In this environment, maybe the police. But for this kind of thing, I know they started last year. I think they did the yellow fever simulation exercises. Suppose you have a case of yellow fever in Lagos. What will you do? They got the people, and some people scored how people were reacting to it, and they scored just to show a level of preparedness. These are things you have to do when you are preparing for emergencies. It requires coordination because it involves different agencies, it involves different people with different specialties. So these are the elements of preparation. Now, I put this there, what they call preparedness, emergency support functions and responsibilities. It's just to give us an idea of the things we should think of. It's general for disasters. But can use similar things again, like I said, look at it for different, what we call the community disasters, and look at it. Transportation. You need to transport people, either the sick, or the staff, or people, contact tracers, etc. You have to plan for that. They need to communicate with each other. Public works and engineering, they're very essential. Firefighting, just in case of fire. So many things. Mass care. In case many people fall ill, you need to move them. What called surge capacity. I was asking the prof here this morning. They were very lucky that COVID-19 looks like a simple virus. I don't know why it's like this in this part of the world. We are lucky, we thank God. But look at what is happening in China, what had happened in China, what is happening in Italy, even in the US that was making younger. In the last 3-4 days, they've recorded more cases. Now, all of them, they've shut down New York City, they've shut down Washington, not shut down, I mean, you have military men all over the place now because they take it very seriously. Mass care. Suppose you need to move people from one part of the state to another. You must prepare for that. That's why in Lagos State, there are some areas where you just build some shelters there, kept them there. And occasionally, if you need to move people from one places, you just go there, let them go there. That's why maybe IDP, they call it IDP, but so many things you need to look at. Medical source, search and rescue, etc. Power. You can build your treatment unit, no power, no water. These are the things you have to think about. Next slide. So when the disaster occurs, you have to respond. And how fast you respond will determine the number of casualties you have, whether deaths or this. And that's why, again, preparing is very, very essential. And then next is recovery. I'm going to go back later again to address it to a biological threat. It's just a general principle. It's a general principle that can apply to anything depending on what is causing disaster. Now, it was when Ebola occurred, the issue of biological threats came to the fore. It's been happening all over the world and we never considered. Well, Ebola taught us a lesson, at least in Lagos. We realized that we were just joking with ourselves. That's why I said we were not lucky. We were not prepared. Our public health systems was not prepared. That's pure and simple. And the lesson was we need to build on that system. And whether we like it or not, another disease will come. It's not an equi. It's a fact of life. Ebola occurred. COVID-19 now, we don't know what next is going to come. It will come. So biological threats, just like any disaster, can be natural, intentional, or accidental. It can be from pathogens, toxins, infectious proteins, whatever it is. And also be man-made, and they can cause catastrophic events. What is happening now, worldwide, infectious diseases have no borders. They can get to anywhere. So that's why it is incumbent on every country, every state, to prepare for this. And that's why the concept of global health security came in. What is happening globally now, different countries have sat down now, because when disaster causes things that the host nation cannot cope with. So you need assistance, you need support. And the essence is collaboration. That's why the health of global security comes in. How do you manage risk to our health, economy, industry, and environment? From all sorts. And let's not look at it again. It's not only human health. It's animal health. That's why I'm very happy I got some people here. It's the environment. It could be plant health, veterinary. And the reason being that most of these diseases we have now, about 70% of them are zoonotic diseases. Diseases of animals that came into contact with human beings. That's the reality. Now you have global health security agenda. That's what's globally now. Then they look at what is happening globally, how diseases are flaring. They sat down. How can we globally now collaborate with each other, help each other to do something, to be able to prevent, detect, and respond to any threats that comes. And take, for instance, when Ebola struck 2014, we had no clue. Everybody went, but we had support of CDC, WHO, UNICEF, MSF, etc. The private sector in Nigeria, federal government. So it's a multi-sectoral collaborative effort. Global threat of infectious disease. There are many factors involved. These are all the factors here. And the fact is that all these factors are at play here in Nigeria. Governance issues. To me, one of the problems, in fact, the major cause of our problems in this country has to do with leadership and governance. Because these are the areas, if you don't have leadership and governance, every other thing fails. Because it's at that level you set your vision, your ambition, your policies, your legislations to guide all your activities. Without that, there's chaos. Very essential. And this also includes our obligations to relevant international agreements. As a country, we signed to some agreements internationally. I'll bring them to that. All in the aim of trying to make us prepare for diseases. Fragile health systems. This is what our health systems, health system in Nigeria is fragile. If you look at all the books, fragile, uncoordinated, all sorts. It's reality. Urbanization. Urbanization. As you urbanize, population grows. If you don't plan ahead, it becomes very susceptible. Globalization, global travel and commerce. This is the easiest way that what happened in China, how has it spread all over the world? Population growth and demographic changes. Our population in Nigeria is 200 million. So we are sitting ducks if we're not careful. Increased trade in food, agricultural products. All this is related to what we call biosecurity. So many things. These are all this migration and conflict. We all know that, especially up north. Boko Haram, Niger Delta, Ibenda. You have them down south here. There are very many. Of course, they all relate to our economy. The same thing is happening in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, in Nigeria. Everything. Poor regional planning, housing systems, sanitation, environmental hygiene. We all know. Climate change is a serious issue. Poverty, illiteracy, it's a serious issue. The major causes of some of this is terrorism, conflict and strife. Technology, we are still behind. Next slide. Now, the other thing again, we've heard of arid, emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases. Some of them are happening now. These are infections that have newly appeared in the population or have existed but are rapidly increasing in incidence and geographic range. It's COVID-19. We don't know, was unknown before. Whether it's new or it mutated, nobody knows. That's new. But there's so many of these things here that are coming up again. Enterohemorrhagic E. coli, norovirus, Campylobacter, Salmonella, you have influenza, TB, so many things. And the factors that are making them re-emerge now have to do with demographic changes, economic development, global travel and commerce, and conflict, as in addition to others. Look at this. This is a history of infectious disease and epidemics. That's why I said we're still going to have it. 1907, you have the plague, killed over 1 million people. 1919, influenza pandemic, killed over 20 million people. We've had measles, malaria, tuberculosis, killing many of our people here. In 2014, we had Ebola. Around the same time, we had MERS, Middle Eastern, in the UAE, you have SARS, you have viral hemorrhagic fevers, Ebola and Lassa fever. They're in the same class. We're still having Lassa fever in Nigeria here. All these now COVID-19. All these have triggered major international concerns and raised new challenges and caused public health crisis. And that's the reason why we are here today. What are the impacts of biological threats? The easiest way now. our budget, national budget, was based on what's the currency rate? About $60-something to the naira, abi? Or 50-something. Now the thing that's crashed is now 30-something. It means we cannot even, we don't have the money to fund the budget. It's as pure, as simple as that. So all those amount of money they say they were marked to X, Y, Z, especially the health sector, you are not going to get enough. So this can destroy our health systems, both nationally and globally, including the states, cause human sufferings. They're now raising scientific challenges because for some of them, no vaccine, no drugs. Everybody is now rushing to do research. But the damage is to the non-health sector, transportation. The airline industry is almost dead now. Nobody's flying. Manufacturing is down. And more important, it's going to affect us pharmaceuticals. The DG of NAFDAC said something on television not too long ago. That's active APIs. I don't know the pharmacies around here. Active pharmaceutical ingredients that you use for our drugs, 75% of them come from China. China has shut their doors. No, we don't fully understand the enormity of the problems we have. India, where most of our drugs come from, they're shutting their doors. But we've shut our own industries, one way or the other. You can imagine what's going to happen. We don't manufacture consumables. We don't manufacture disposables. Our tourism industry, worldwide now, is dying. Even the Olympics in Japan now, they would have cancelled it. So there is a need for all countries, all states, to collaborate and partner with each other to deal with emergency preparedness. If it happens, we must be able to contain our stores and build our health systems to address other challenges. Now, worldwide, they've looked at everything, lessons from Ebola and so on. And some key areas they've tried to address. I feel are very important. Leadership, strategy, teamwork, and coordination. The next one is surveillance, contact tracing, diagnostic facilities, laboratories. Talk of case management, infection prevention and control. Community engagement, social mobilization and communication. Travel and points of entry. Vaccines, therapies, diagnostics, and research. These are key areas that they've suggested. Next slide. Talked about most of this already. Now, this is what we call incident management or incident command system. This has to do with leadership and teamwork. If you have all these things happening, if there is no control, there will be chaos. And that's why in management, there's what we call incident management. It's not related to health sector alone, but it can be applied. And that's what we use when Ebola struck. It's basically activities of an organization to identify, analyze, and correct hazards to prevent future occurrence. Now, incident command system. You recollect that 2 weeks ago or sometime, the governor of Lagos State instituted this. Many people did not understand what it was. But it was an experience from the Ebola situation. It's a management system designed to enable effective and efficient domestic incident management by integrating a combination of facilities, equipment, personnel, procedures, communications, etc., within a common structure. It's a way of introducing order. If there's a disaster, you can have chaos. So somebody must be in charge. In the US, the president is usually the incident commander, but occasionally he delegates authorities to people below him. If you look at the disaster cycle, there's one area which I didn't mention. How do you recovery, points of recovery? If a disaster happens and they feel it's going to threaten the whole of the United States, nobody will know when the president is carried. They have different locations where they can take him to. Nobody will know. But those locations set for him to govern. He can still communicate with the country. But it's only the security people who know. That's a way of preparing. So that's why. So this is what they call Emergency Operations Center, EOC. And they've said all states should develop their EOCs. This is the kind of structure we had in Lagos then. And this is a similar structure they're operating now. You have the Minister for Health or an incident commander, or he delegates his authority to the incident manager. You know, down the line, these are teams. That level there, a PID, management, and under that, they have their different functions. So different people head different units. They know their roles. They carry about their distance, but there's a structure. Everybody knows who to respond to. That's the way to create order out of disorder. Response. That's what we did this during Ebola. We adopted that same management system. We got protocols of WHO. We consider our rapid response teams. We established all these things here. We developed a strategic plan of action. This is what every state, every country should have. I put cremation here because in the case of Ebola, and the story of this, maybe I should tell you. When Bola Tinubu came into, when he started, the first few years, we were picking a minimum of 10 dead bodies a day on the road. Nobody, and they said that you cannot have this kind of thing in a city. So we set up a unit. Their job, we used to call it semi, their job was just to go around the state to picking those dead bodies. But you know what? It's that same unit that when Ebola struck, we trained the staff, they knew what to do, we taught them how to put on their gowns. They were now used now to go and disinfect areas or houses where they had Ebola cases to prevent this. But Lagos State was so overwhelmed by dead bodies. Every time your mortuary gets filled up, you start looking for land to do mass burial. After a while, the owners of land started chasing us all over the place. So we decided to set up a crematorium. And when the legal people were trying to establish this law, there was a big fight. The Muslims came, said no, it's against Islam, everything like that. But you know what? These are things required. It was this crematorium we used to cremate, what's that man? Soya. We use the same crematorium, we now create some of dead babies all there in Lagos State now, and some of those cases again. It's very easy, it's better than, because as at that time, couldn't just touch dead bodies for fear of catching Ebola because of our culture. So a lot of this is we established. Next slide. Now, the response teams. We talk about epidemiology or surveillance, very key. You have to trace your contacts or supposed contact, case management and infection control. For those of them that are positive, how do you treat them? So it may not be now, how do you treat for COVID-19? How do you look after them? How do you make your diagnosis? Laboratories. You find that NCDC had certified some laboratories all over the country. Points of entry, very key. For COVID-19 now, mainly is the airport. But then during Ebola time, it's only not the airport because we had land borders. I know how porous our borders are. So these are very key. Social mobilization. There's nothing you do in the health sector if you don't involve your community. You're wasting your time. If you don't change their behavior, pass on to knowledge to them, you're wasting your time. And of course, coordination, which is under leadership again. So under each one, all the things we did, I think Dr. Mitu will explain. You have to confirm your cases. You take blood from the suspects, do aggressive contact testing, You have to decontaminate your health facilities or homes, so many things. Points of entry, you have to screen people coming, give them forms, wear face masks, you do all those fancy things you do at the airport now. Although it's still very porous, but it's better than when we had in Ebola. Screening instruments, etc. Case management. You refer to that place, you treat, you create isolation centers because you don't want them to mix. So you have facilities for confirmed cases, facilities for suspects, all those things. When you're having this, you have to dissolve power, water supply, waste management, so many things. Social mobilization. This is key. One of the major success areas for Ebola was this. We mobilized the community, went to every nook and cranny of Lagos State, using CDA, CDCs. But you see, you need to map your stakeholders, your community, know their strengths, where they are, what are the risks, potential, then give knowledge to them. Meet with your CDA, CDCs, market women, all sorts. They have many groups that I can discuss. Create messages in different languages. Now we have electronic systems. Create materials and media appearances. That's why you see the incident managers, they go and talk to the media. Today we saw so many cases. Then as you're talking again, rumors flying, you have to debunk the rumors. These are realities. The same thing, we use social media, very came in handy. Community engagement is key. Now, as we were going along, we were training people because new things were coming up. I think the same thing they are doing with COVID-19. You have to teach people how to put on gloves, teach people how to do whatever it is. This is very key. You train people because, like I said, for Ebola, you could not enter a treatment center if you were not trained on how to put on your gown, how to remove your gown. You enter that building, you don't come out that way. Go out the other way. It is very, very essential, else it becomes very dangerous. Next slide. What are the key success factors for Ebola? It's what we built on now for COVID-19. Political will, good leadership, and teamwork. All these are very essential for emergency response. Collaboration, intergovernment, agency, sectorial, aggressive contact tracing, active rumor and alert investigation, public enlightenment, technology, data. It is very key. Because every evening at the Emergency Operations Center, everybody meets, you share knowledge, different teams, you present, you come out with figures, ask them questions, you query, and based on that, you plan for the food for the next day. You get your figures or facts to go and meet the press. Without that, you tear it to pieces. Next slide. Post-contaminator. That's the reason why we're here. All this was here. There's a need to build that capacity. But I need to go to, next slide. The concept of biosecurity, because people have been talking about it. It's something we know, but not put everything together. There are many definitions, but these are just three. There's a strategic and integrated approach to analyzing and managing relevant risks, not only now to human, animal, plant life, and health, and associated risk of the environment. Risks. Like I told you, you did risk analysis when you are mitigating and prevention, and preparing. It's very key. And our risks cover not only humans to human, animal, and plant life. It also involves manipulation of the environment, inappropriate use of potentially dangerous biological agents and toxins, and irresponsible use of rapidly evolving biotechnology. That's what they call dual-use research. You have scientists, they sit down in the lab. They are doing research for a positive purpose. Where you want to create a drug, you want to create the vaccines. Or in the process, you might accidentally create something else where you manipulate genetically. And there are some people who actually do it deliberately. That's terrorism. And don't say how. It's not far-fetched at all. They can manipulate so many things. Some people are saying that Ebola was manipulated. You don't know. So they're talking about COVID-19 in China, we don't know. But it's not far-fetched because of technology. When they say genomics, and that's why I say we have a problem with this environment. If we are not careful, we'll be left behind. We're going to the area of genomics. We're still doing, I don't know why I call it Umbuno. You still put microscope, you stain, then you dilute. You know, a genomic machine now is just like handheld now. One drop of blood, put it there, it gives your genome profile. That is where people are now. And it's going on. Look, the person who told me this is the Commissioner of Lagos State now. He was in South Africa. He just got to be stuck. Genomic, what was genomic? So that's so I started with it. I found it fascinating. And what he said, I will quote again, it is moving at a fast rate. And it may stop in Nigeria, it won't wait. So if you don't get in, you're lost. That's the reality. And these are people, but see, so you can do it, but again, some people can genetically manipulate for uses as a biological weapon. So, as I say, it includes development, production, stockpiling, and use of biological weapons. You can use anthrax. You heard of what they use anthrax? You use so many things. So, it's, listen. Next slide. These are the biosecurity sectors. Animal life and health, including food safety. Human life and health. Plant life and health, environment. These are the dimensions. Laboratory. It would have been a long thing there. Laboratory too. It can be accidental in laboratory, especially now there is order in any laboratory. How you use your reagents, how you use your agents. And that's why the DSS3 lab he was talking about, when Obadure said, you can come, they won't allow you in. Because it's a security environment. You need to be permitted to enter it. Because they don't deal with they deal with high consequence organisms. And people who work there must be certified. They've screened them security-wise, because they never know which one of them might have intention. They are trained in procedures, so you don't make mistakes, so they don't have accidental discharge. So many things. I talk about animal health. You have cattle, you have sheep, you have all those things. They all have diseases that can affect humans. So if you don't deal with them properly, then we all are at risk. I mentioned life sciences, dual risk research, so many things, but you can't go into all those yourself. I told you in Africa, these are the peculiarities we have on the continent, these factors. Now, we try to examine biosecurity in Nigeria. This is our population here. It's over 200 million people. People 0 to 14 years of age, they consume about 43%. That's huge. 0 to 25 years, they consume 65%. In any normal country, that's the flaw. If we look at those people properly, if we develop them. And the only way to develop them is education and health. This is where we failed. So we have a problem as a country. Fertility rate is 5.3. They're just breeding. Funny enough, 65 years and old, just about 3%. But look at our indices. You all know we're not going to do it. Mortality, very poor. And that's a reflection of a fragile health system. Next slide. In the last 20 years, these are all the diseases we have to face in Nigeria. It started at 2019. At the time here now, Lassa fever has gone up. So, Lassa fever has gone up. So all those things. Next slide. Now, Global Health Security Index score. When we're talking about biosecurity, there was a scoring system to use joint external evaluation. 2018, the first used. It was voluntary. Every country was to use a number of criteria to to assess your preparedness. They did for Nigeria, we scored 39%. That is, we failed. No. But between then and now, we made a lot of progress. There's no doubt about that. Recently, in 2019, last year, it came out Global Health Security Index. They scored 195 nations, including Nigeria. But the bad thing, or good, depends how you look at it, is that many countries failed. Were not prepared. That's Nigeria's score, 37.8. Over 100. But the average score worldwide was about 40-something. So we did well. We scored 96 out of 195. To be frank with you, I was surprised. But it's a plus for us. But they identified some key areas where we failed woefully, which that's why I brought those areas here where we should address as a country. Biosafety, and this biosecurity issue. Dual-use research, and culture of responsible science and our immunization level, poor. We scored 26.3 out of the average total score, 34%. Detection and reporting, we did very well. But there, we scored poorly on data integration between human, animal, and environmental health sectors. And that's why I said in this country, we tend to work in silos. You might be doing the same thing in the environment. The people in health don't know. They don't share information. They don't share data. So we're duplicating efforts. We are not making progress. Rapid response. We did well because between 2018, based on Ebola, we woke up. We started doing some exercises. But one area we did not score was linking public health and security authorities. Very key. Risk communications and access to communication infrastructure. We scored poorly. Where we scored bad was our health system. And the address is our health capacity in clinics, hospitals, and community health care workers. Poor. And I was asking them, we're lucky that we only have many cases that we have in Lagos. 2. Suspects, 23. Suppose something happened, we hope not, in the US or something, or Italy, happens here. We can't cope. That's it. That's the reality. We don't know where to put them. And I've had experience of something like this. Some years back again, you had people who were stealing oil, petroleum, they went to and they had this explosion. And many people died. Many people had burns, severe burns. And that day, they carried them to Lassoth. There was no bed space. They had to leave all of them on the floor, breathing in pain. It's that bad. We scored poorly on medical countermeasures. I'd alluded to this before. I will come back to it. Communications with health workers during public health emergencies. Infection control practices and availability of equipment. We all know this. Compliance with international norms, we did very well. But the problem is cross-border agreements on public and animal health emergency response. How are animals cross our borders into this country? They can just walk across. We don't know. It's worse up north. Risk environment, political, security, socio-economic resilience, infrastructure inadequacy, and public reliability. We all know this one. Boko Haram. All of them. These are factors working against us here. I told you about joint external discipline. This is the score. We scored poorly. National legislation and policy financing, biosafety and biosecurity, prepared. These are areas they said we should look into. Next slide. Governance and legal framework. People do not know the value of laws and legislation. Without this, you can't make any move. Because you have no authority conferred on anybody to do anything. People can challenge them. Laws are a strategic tool to effective public health practice. They establish and delineate the missions of public health agencies, provide authority and scope of public health functions, and appropriate necessary funds. If they don't have law, nobody's going to fund you. So it's a way of empowering governments to strengthen public health and preparedness. This is what's it. When Ebola struck in Liberia, they had a major problem. They didn't even know who was going to be in charge because there was no law. They had to hurry to do a lot of things within the next 2 years to get something. Next slide. The same thing happened in Cote d'Ivoire and Togo. I brought Nigeria here because we're a bit slow. NCDC was created in 2011, National Center for Disease Control. Created in 2011. When we had the Ebola, NCDC was sitting there in one building in Abuja. It wasn't until 2018 that it was passed into law. Almost 9 years. So you can imagine what NCDC would have done if it had been appropriated everything since then. They're still fighting on how much to give now. So laws are essential. But in Nigeria, we have a lot of laws. Quarantine law, 1926. Animal disease, all sorts of things. But the problem is that most of these laws, in fact, virtually all these laws are outdated. And they do not address prevailing public health environment. I'll give you an example. Last year, or 2 years ago, we started having people trying to commit suicide in Lagos. And there was a woman who tried to jump into the lagoon. And the police arrested her. And they were going to prosecute her. Wait. And I said, so I called the Attorney General. Are you people mad? He said, what? Do you think the woman who wanted to commit suicide was going to do it deliberately? Now, don't you think there's something wrong? Please tell your people to get out of this and take her for treatment. But you can't blame them. You know why? They were operating under a mental health law that was 60 years old. It was called Lunacy Act. In that law, it was an offense to try to commit suicide. That's why they were, no, that's reality. So most of these laws are outdated. Look at your public health laws. Go and check, even in Oyo State. Go and check. So this need to be reviewed to meet modern times. That's the essence of this. Public health infrastructure. We have all sorts. Federal Ministry of Agriculture, all the departments, Ministry of Health, states, but each one of them tend to work in silos. They don't work together. You don't know what this one is doing. They say, this is my budget. You can't talk my budget. But yeah, we're dealing with the same country. This is reality in the environment here. If they work in silos, when it comes to working with that such capacity, people die. You cannot coordinate because you don't even know what resources you have. When we're doing well now, thanks to CDC, we have more labs now. We created labs for Lassa fever, viral hepatitis, all of them. I think they added 4 more recently because of COVID-19, but doing well here. Next slide. It says states should create public health emergency operation centers. As at the time I did this, there was 19, so there are more now, which is good. But it's not enough to create operation centers. The operation centers have to be functional. And all this require money and people. This is the biosecurity lab in Lagos, the BSS3. This lab is functioning now. Because of our success with Ebola, we approached the Canadian embassy, Canadian government. And we had to write a proposal. They asked for specific things. And luckily, they agreed to sponsor it. So they sponsored the construction and the equipping. But they did the same lab for Liberia. But we refused in Lagos that it's going to be a joint venture, And we too, we are going to run it, so we have to build the capacity. So put down money to staff, train the staff to work there. So they couldn't bamboozle us. The one in Liberia has not started now. They are completely confused. That's why it's essential. We are the nut of the problem. We have to take responsibility. If we don't do anything, how do we want to encourage people to assist us? But there's still a politics over that lab. I'm not going to sit here before I create wahala. Now, human resource for health. To me, this is an issue of this country. It's an emergency. And we don't seem to realize it. We have severe shortage, not only in number, categories, and even in training quality. They say from WHO, 25% of the world's disease burden is in Africa, and only 1% of the world's health workforce. That's the disparity. WHO said in sub-Saharan Africa, we have a deficit of about 1.8 million health workers. And this deficit, if it's not careful, is projected to rise to 4.3 by year 2035. I think it's going to be much earlier than that. You know why? We all know how all our health workers have been taken away. And we here are sitting down, nobody is talking. Our doctors, nurses are going to do exams there, and they're going to hang there. We're creating shortage for ourselves here. They say one doctor to 5,000 people. Depends on your source of statistics. But the recommended one doctor to 600. One pathologist to 200 to 500. Very wide persons in this country. In the UK, it's 1 to 15,000. In the US, 1 to 19,000. We have 72,000 registered doctors. Half of them are not practicing here. That's why I say, and this was last year or so, over 6,000 Nigerian doctors are set to take the UK PLAB exam, March 2019. You can imagine. So, just share enormity of the problem. Disease surveillance is key. We are doing relatively well. So, I'm not going to, but we're now introducing technology to improve on it. Partnership. Private sector is there. It's a huge resource because they have the resources. But more importantly, again, partnerships between governments. But you see, this country, based on everything, we cannot fund the health sector alone. So we need partners. We don't have resources. We don't have the full knowledge, everything. We can't do without partners. Like I said, we do silo mentality. Everybody does vertical programs. Because some donors will say, this is how you want it, and you agree with them. As a government, you have a right to say no. You have to operate within our laws and plans, or else carry your money and go. Because if you take their money, you see 3/4 of the money still goes back to them anyway. I can show you either a consultant or whatever it is. But the opportunity for us to build local capacity, if you take it, but at our own control. One more thing. The academic community. I always crack jokes to people, the professors. Most of them like wearing bow tie. It's always an argument. I say, you people are doing research. Have you spoken to government? They say, government care. Then they abuse government. When the government doesn't even know what you are doing. But you see, you do the research, you publish your papers, I'm a professor, everything like that, everybody goes home. But the government, the state has not even benefited from what you are doing. But everybody has reasons. I gave a similar presentation at the University of Ife, Public Health Department. And I was asking the professor, does the Oyo State government understand this? They said, I said, it's a lie. They sat me down and gave me all sorts of stories. That's a university within the state. So, the handshake between the town and gown is not there. So you can do your research, you can blow out the grammar, but the state cannot benefit because it's from this that policies are given, plans are made, budgets are Apply. Next slide. Medical countermeasures. I've alluded to this before. So it's very key. These are products materialized in the event of a public health emergency. You can either use them during diagnosis to prevent, protect, and treat conditions. The fact is that in this country, they are not commercially available. One, we don't have an industry. And in other countries, like I told earlier, they stockpile so that when anything happens, they can rapidly deploy. Here, we don't stockpile. We don't manufacture. When COVID-19 happened, Kenya, people in Kenya, they came to Nigeria looking for some of these to carry away. Now you have shortage. It also includes pharmaceutical and biological products, vaccines, blood products, antibodies. They stockpile this. Is it antimicrobial, antiviral? Devices, test kits. So we here, we are too resident, we don't do anything. It's when anything happens, we start running, asking, oh, we need money, we don't have money, etc. But I'm not blaming, well, we need to understand what we are facing. We have the industry. Now, Africa produces less than 1% of our vaccine needs. We need all these vaccines we don't even produce, and we don't even order early enough. Global clinical trials, only 2% are done in the continent of Africa. And half of these are either done in Egypt or South Africa. I don't blame our scientists here because the government does not fund research at all. Climate change, global warming. You may think this is the very key. Air pollution. This is sulfur level. This is Lagos. When you start looking, people start coughing, you have upper respiratory infections, asthma, everything. You start wondering why. It's the environmental. Lake Chad has shrunk. Look at what it used to be before. This is what it is now. Due to many things. Climate change is one. Environmental degradation. A lot of people used to depend on the waters here. Next slide. We all know this now. This is Lagos, but it's Oyo State too. It's all over all the states. This is population explosion. Lagos, mega city. Infection prevention and control. I've talked about that. We are doing, but we still need to do more. Next slide. Multi-drug resistance. We are joking with this. It is very, very common here. And it's also aggravated by the fact that even in animals that give antibiotics to, you overload them, we eat them, there's connection. Then in this country again, you fall sick or you have tummy problem, you just go and buy one ampiclos, maybe 1 or 2 capsules, you think that's what's relating to it. And it's a link again between zoonotic disease animals and humans. If you recollect, in 2017, there was this outbreak in Queen's College, Lagos. Many people don't know what happened. It's an issue of multi-drug resistance. Water sanitation hygiene is a problem. Next slide. This is what happened in QC. Within a space of 2 weeks, 3,000 children fell ill. And I think about 3 or 4 of them died. We took blood samples, we sent to CDC. This group grew organisms that were totally resistant to all the drugs we had here. They had to use some fancy new drugs. But what happened? This tank here, water tank, was never cleaned. Saw dead cats and animals here, mixture with sewage and all. And that's what those children were drinking. That's what caused it. It's not only, it happens in many schools, but we don't know. These are realities. It's essential for us to know what we are dealing with. I've talked security, we've talked about. herdsmen and cattle, the origin of Amotekun, ISIS, Boko Haram, terrorists, religion, there are major areas of potential problems. As a general rule, if we do not deal with our education system, we do not invest in health, we do not address poverty, we're wasting our time. I want to talk about investing in health, although this slide was not here. Federal government is budgeting just less than 5% for the health sector. And WHO says the benchmark is 15% of your total budget. There are some states that are spending 15%, but they have nothing to show for it in terms of their indices. So there's something wrong somewhere. The federal budget, there's something they call emergency budget. You never know what will happen, or contingency budget. We're not budgeting enough. It's from there that things like this are funded. So they said they released 900 and something million. Peanuts. Because for the things they have to do, they have to stockpile, they have to train staff, they have to do anything. It can't cover anything. But there's politics. Because over there, they want to sit on it and control it. To release is a problem. So if they budget in any state X amount of money, at the end of the year, how much of that is released? I used to trace the budget of Lagos, the health budget of Lagos since 1999. It was increasing, going up. But based on that, again, you broke the budget down to capital, recurrent, and whatever it is. 80% of the budget was going to overheads, salaries. So how much money do you have left to do capital? But you didn't get to it. You have to start begging. You go for budgetary defense, argue over the thing. And when you're arguing, nobody's going to say, oh, this is a health sector, let's take PTO. Everybody is fighting for his own. So if you talk, they say, shut up. You need to tell him to shut up. But it's when the emergency happens, everybody starts running. I always tell this story. 6 months before Ebola struck in Lagos, and we were doing budget. And I was asking the governor, okay, can I have just $500 million more? He said, where am I? I'm not giving you. I said, okay. And I had a colleague who sat next to me, sports. He said, if the man refused you, how am I going to get my money? I said, don't worry. When it happens, they will look for the money. And the governor heard. He reduced my budget by $500 million. I said, yes, sir. When Ebola struck, the first person died. Everybody started running and asking, said, Jide, how much money do you need? They gave me cash. They gave me cash. Because at that, look, the night he wanted to cremate Sawyer, I said, go and fire the crematorium. If the Liberian government does not respond over this, I'm going to cremate him the following morning. Get that crematorium ready. I told you what happened to the crematorium. Before he bred it, so people did all sorts of things. But Sawyer was there. We said who was going to deal with his body. All the mortuary attendants ran away. We had to cajole and beg. Each one of them got 15,000 naira that evening. We didn't budget for it. And put them gown, double gown, triple gown, before they could prepare the body for crematorium. But 2 months after, some people in the house of ourselves said, come and explain how I spend money. I said, why did you run away? But that's the investment in health is key. We have failed woefully in this country. Next slide. This is what they call One Health Paradigm. GET is very particular about this. It's a relatively new concept. It's evolving. They're just showing you the interdisciplinary approach between health of human beings, animals, agriculture, veterinarians. I said there is a need to collaborate between ministries now. Ministry of Health, Environment, Agriculture, or Veterinary. Because they are all interrelated. I told you 70% of all these diseases are zoonotic diseases, are diseases of animals. Ebola, bats. COVID-19, Abi, they say bats. Lassa fever, rats. Rabies, dogs or swines. Name it. And they found themselves to human beings. Now they are saying whether COVID virus is mutated, is not mutated, or some people can genetically manipulate that. So that's the essence of One Health paradigm. It's a collaboration again, but there's a cooperation between different professionals. Next slide. What lessons did we learn? Because it's always good to learn lessons, any disaster, so that you can prepare for the next one. I told you, political will, governance are key. We must develop our policies, regulations, operational framework, regulatory capacity, legal identity. These are governance issues. Without these, you can't make any progress. Teamwork and collaboration, I put it there. Public health infrastructure, we need to build this. We failed woefully. Emergency preparedness is key. That's why we're here. Surveillance, without it. Behavioral change and public enlightenment. If you don't change the behavior of people, they cannot even understand what you're talking about. Technology, that's the age of technology. Communications. You have to build capacity in many areas, including research, logistics management. Next slide. These are areas after Ebola we felt we need to build capacity because they are eye-openers. Clinical sciences, non-clinical, laboratory science, blood banking, biobanking, disease surveillance, they're all the same thing. We need to build capacity in all these areas. There are different capacities, different people can perform different functions. So, I did this for Ebola at that time. That's what next steps. Thank you very much.